Listen very carefully and follow my instructions. Prepare your brain for the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast.
I gotta tell you, being an entrepreneur, I will not go through the rest of my career without taking nootropics. Aniracetam, paracetam, modafinil, Nupec, uridyl monophosphate. I mean, phenylparacetam, forget it. You can always have a better brain.
The Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast is about to begin.
Episode number 89 of the Cortex Labs Nootropics podcast, Vinpocetine. A bigger deal than you think. We're going to read out of the nootropic subreddit where basically somebody highlights the significance of Vinpocetine, running through a study which basically, to sum it up, we'll get into some of the details here in a bit, just improves cognitive ability in rats pretty considerably. Vinpocetine is one of those compounds that I guess doesn't get a whole lot of love because it's just one individual compound. It crosses into the blood-brain barrier and improves brain blood flow and oxygen. And it doesn't really modify neurotransmitters to a significant degree, like racetams or raffinils or any of these other compounds. So I guess people kind of regard it as not that significant. But I love the stuff. It's stackable with a whole lot of great nootropic compounds, which we'll get to here in a bit. And I really want to read this nootropic subreddit thread that kind of talk about really how Vinpocetine is actually really cool. Okay, but first, we've got 4 nootropic products that support this broadcast. One of them's on sale right now, and that is the Cortex Nootropic Stack. We've got a stack. It's called Cortex Exceptionally Strong Nootropic Stack. I mean, if you want a stack where you're completely, there's no uncertainty about whether or not the stack is really significantly helping you to have better brain performance and thus for you to perform well in stuff, in life, and productivity, you got to buy the Cortex stack. If you use the coupon code 5, just FIVE at livecortex.com, right now you can get a bottle of Cortex for $28. Pretty cheap for what's being called the only pre-made stack that actually works. Buy Cortex at livecortex.com. You will freaking love it. If you need my help personally on anything related to nootropics, we have a consulting service on nootropics. Basically, we just help people figure out stacks that work well for them, really good stacks and the right doses that really target what you want. Super useful, super widely used nootropics consulting. And the only nootropics, I don't think there's anybody else that's out there consulting on nootropics. We started it. It's been super awesome so far. If you're new to nootropics, we wrote a book for you. It's called Smarter, Better, Faster. It teaches you everything. And it is digital, so you can download it, and the audio version is coming soon. But you can buy that at livecortex.com. And if you've got gut-related issues, this is a new consulting service we just started, particularly SIBO, GERD, or LPR, we can help you to fix it. There's a way to target the methanogens that are overgrown in the small intestine, which are causing your reflux and GERD or LPR, and there's a way to target SIBO in general, and we know how to do that. Okay, so I want to read to you kind of just the beginning of this nootropic subreddit thread about Vinpocetine. Then there's some deep, detailed study stuff, scientific study stuff in there, but I don't want to read you that because it's a little hard to understand. I'll kind of get you the conclusion so you can really figure out what it is. But the guy goes in the beginning, I don't know why Vinpocetine doesn't get more love. In the conclusion of the study that he's referencing, the mechanisms by which Vinpocetine enhances retrieval, meaning just memory retrieval, cognitive activating abilities, etc., is unknown. However, Vinpocetine reportedly increases the turnover of norepinephrine in the brain, and central monoamine neurotransmitter systems are known to have modulating effects on selective attention and memory retrieval. Therefore, the compound's action on ascending noradrenergic pathway should be considered. The present data suggests that Vinpocetine, a compound which increases memory recall in human patients and volunteers, also promotes memory retrieval and a passive avoidance paradigm in rats. Now, there's a couple people that go on. That's all the thread is. There's a couple people that respond in the comments section of that nootropic subreddit thread and say, yeah, I took Vinpocetine for a day or two. It was really awesome, and then I couldn't get to work for me. A couple of the people go, I stack it with this and that, and it's kind of a good additional synergizing compound to put in a stack. But what I found with Vinpocetine is that number one, it's one of those compounds you could probably take every day, right? There aren't many compounds like that. There's perhaps ashwagandha, Alcar, I guess, is questionable. Bacopa monnieri, I believe you can take every day. Theacrine, you could probably take every day in low dose. If you took it 50 milligrams a day, you get some stimulation from it and take it every day. Alpha lipoic acid, you could take every day. And there's a handful of other compounds that I think are fine to take kind of just as supplements, kind of just like as vitamins. There's just nutrients or different things that help the brain work. Like I wouldn't suggest taking racetams every day because they make too many modifications on neurotransmitters. You don't want to eventually run into side effects. But vinpocetine is certainly something that you can take every day because if it has any effect, which I mean, apparently it does, like on epinephrine, it's subtle and it isn't significant enough to make like big, large-scale changes to where if you take it every day, you're going to run into some sort of problem. But man, I mean, there's not much better than, and it's always an awesome option to be able to improve the way that blood and oxygen work in your brain, especially for performance benefits. I mean, that's one of the really cool things about meditation is it does both of those things, which is awesome. Let's just shift gears a little bit to stacking vinpocetine. So the major point is vinpocetine is like not something to be overlooked. It should certainly be talked about a little more. It's like underrated. It's like an unspoken underrating of vinpocetine, and I don't know why, because this stuff is really awesome, and I think it's important to emphasize how cool it really is. The best general way to use vinpocetine that I found is to stack it in like 10 to 30 milligram quantities with like stacks of like 4 to 5 additional compounds that work basically as the primary functional basis of the stack. Like they're doing the most, but you got the vinpocetine in there kind of just as a synergistic additive to improve brain performance to a degree and to synergize with the stack. Like a great vinpocetine stack would be like 500 milligrams oxiracetam, 20 milligrams coliracetam, 100 milligrams alpha GPC, 100 milligrams theacrine, and then 20 milligrams of vinpocetine. You got racetams, you got the choline sources, you got stimulation with the theacrine, but then you got vinpocetine kind of being the cherry on top of the nootropic stack and helping your brain to have more oxygen and blood flow. Another thing that I found super interesting is that vinpocetine stacks really well with Noopept, the Russian pharmaceutical compound that you take in like 5 to 25 milligram doses. Something like 15 milligrams Noopept, 300 milligrams choline bitartrate, 100 milligrams uridine monophosphate, and 20 milligrams of vinpocetine is like a super epic stack. I mean, that's kind of a variation of a stack that I take from time to time that just like is one of those stacks I have in the arsenal that I know I can pull out at any time that turns the brain on and makes me feel really pretty good. By itself, vinpocetine is unlikely to give you a noticeable effect compared to something like oxiracetam or something. I mean, or phenylpiracetam. And these are very stimulant like racetams, and these things just crank up the brain's capacity to be alert and awake and fluid. And vinpocetine doesn't quite do that. I mean, it's not acutely noticeable. It's not like a coffee thing or a uridine or cortex stack thing. It's kind of just like its own thing that you don't feel so much of a stimulation for and around, but you do feel a degree of optimization happening in your brain. It's like, it's not that you can actually feel blood flow and oxygen in there, but it's like when you go to do tasks, particularly heavy mental processing tasks, you feel like things just work a little smoother. And it is actually noticeable, and I don't believe it's placebo. Okay, so that's kind of like the spectrum of effects with vinpocetine. Those are a couple stacks you can stack it with. I think it's an awesome compound. It's like you could basically add it to anything. I mean, there's so many stacks out there that you can put vinpocetine on. Take your favorite stack and throw in 20 milligrams vinpocetine. You probably notice a difference, and it'll definitely stack well. You're not going to run into any issues taking vinpocetine. It's a totally awesome compound. It's on the GRAS list, so it's on the generally recognized as safe list, which is cool, like for people's peace of mind. And it's a compound that I believe you can get away with taking every day. Okay, so thanks so much for listening, everybody. That was a quick podcast on vinpocetine. Don't forget the significance of it. If you're listening, the takeaway is this: add it to your stacks. Okay, add it in 10 to 30 milligrams to your stacks, and find out, you know, in that dose range, like what works the best for you with your stacks. And I think you're going to find that, you know, your stacks without it are certainly different than your stacks with it, and your stacks with it are going to be a little bit better. The mighty vinpocetine. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Remember, the Cortex stack, our nootropic stack, on sale for $28 if you use the coupon code 5, F-I-V-E, at livecortex.com. Look, if you want to try what's being called the only pre-made stack that actually works, buy a bottle of Cortex. I mean, the stuff is awesome. You can get that at livecortex.com for the Cortex nootropic stack. If you need my help personally, we've got a consulting service on nootropics. It's basically a 40-minute call with me, and we help you figure out stacks that rock your world. Get that at livecortex.com. If you're new to nootropics, read Smarter, Better, Faster. That's our book that we wrote on nootropics. Teaches you everything, and it's digital. So you could go buy it, download it, start reading it right away. It gives you many stacks. It's totally awesome. And if you've got gut-related issues like GERD, LPR, or SIBO, we can help you there. We've got a consulting service on it. Get that at livecortex.com. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Rock on.